Hey folks, TJ at Course of Sport here, and today we're going to be looking at some of my old GoPro footage. This is going to be part of a new series that I'm going to try to do to show some of my old races and kind of walk you through what I was thinking during the race, some of the moves I made, why I did things I did, why maybe I made a mistake, um, and try to show you some tips and tricks you can use in your own racing maybe to help you improve your driving overall. Um, so the first thing we're going to look at here is the USPKS final from GoPro Motorplex 2018 in KA100. Um, so some background on this race: I'm running KA100 here, and we were fast all weekend. We were fastest in multiple practice sessions, and then I did what I always do, and I qualified not great. So in this particular final, I'm starting 7th after I had a couple issues in one of the heat races, um, and we ended up having to work pretty hard for this one, but it was a good race, and it gives you a little bit of idea on some overtaking things, controlling a race. There's various topics we're going to go through as we go through this. We're just going to watch together, ride along, and take a look and see what we can see. So as I said, starting 7th here. We've got Josh Hotes in front of us. Not a great start. A little bit bogged down, kind of timed it a little bit poorly, so I'm actually back to 8th right away, right off the bat. But you can see here, we've already got one down as good old Chuck Tate throws a chain, and we get that one back from Blake Hunt too. So we're into 6th already, so that's good. GoPro is a very flowing track, so if you haven't been here before, essentially it is a replica of the old Parma racetrack in Italy, which is a classic old circuit that doesn't exist anymore, but it's based off of that layout. Real flowing. There's really only one slow corner here, so it really emphasizes smooth driving, rhythm, and that sort of thing. In this view, we've got the Cambox Mecha helmet cam. So this gives you like a perfect driver's eye view here of the whole race. This is in my helmet, so you can see exactly what I'm seeing, which is good because you can see hands, feet, all the important things for driving, posture, and everything like that. So right off the bat here, we are on our 2nd lap, it looks like, and we are closing up on the guys in front of us. We've got Colton Ramsey in front of us, which is generally a good sign. For me, at least, I tend to be kind of a slow starter in races. It takes me a few laps to really get rolling. So in this case, like if I feel like I'm fast in the opening 2 laps, I feel like we've either got a really good go-kart and we're going to be able to go forward, or we're too high in tire pressure. So until about the halfway point of the race, there's really no telling what's going to happen. We just know we're really fast for the opening few laps. So I'm being a little bit gentle here, not pressuring Colton too hard because we're teammates and he's my buddy. But it's pretty clear here that I'm faster, so I'm going to do my best here to get through this pretty cleanly. And now, looking back there off the hairpin, so I try to coach drivers and say that you're allowed to look back. I know there's a lot of guys out there who say, don't look back, always just look forward. Personally, I kind of thrive off of having information when I'm out on the track. And that's kind of what I try to teach, is just absorb as much information as possible at all times. And having a look behind you once a lap or so gives you a lot of information on what's happening behind you. And then you can kind of plan your race a little bit better. If you know you're getting hunted down from a guy who's behind you, you can kind of anticipate that, plan for it, so you're not taken by surprise every time somebody throws it down the inside halfway through the race or whatever. So I like to tell drivers you can look back, but try not to be driving all over your shoulders every lap even. Once a lap is kind of my rule of thumb. Look back, get a feel for what's going on behind you, and then focus forward again. So while I was talking, we saw Colton go by Josh on the back straightaway into the Monza there, and I was able to kind of push him through this corner. So this is a really long corner, and it's kind of a hard braking zone. So you can follow somebody through here. You can get alongside somebody, and you don't have to get the pass done right away at the entry. You can roll around the bottom here because this corner is so long, and you can roll the bottom, and that guy can hang on the outside, and you still can get him before the end of the corner. So I had that in mind, and I was able to get by Josh there, and then cover the pass off on the exit. The S is, or the S is there. It's not really a huge passing zone, but with the right run, somebody could get a move on you there. And knowing Josh as well as I do, there would be a chance he could just throw it down the inside and surprise me. So you want to cover that off a little bit. But then I have a really good run here on Colton, and I'm able to go to the inside in this hairpin. Really nice controlled overtake, nothing, no drama. And Colton's been racing long enough. He's good enough. He knows when he's beat and when to back out, so he's not going to fight me too hard through that corner. And now we can kind of set our sights on the guys up front here. There's my one look over my shoulder to get a gauge on how far I'm pulling away from those guys, if at all. Fortunately, I was. In this case, too, I was also looking back because I know Josh is back there, too, and he has a tendency to throw it in on people. He's a pretty aggressive overtaker. So I was looking back to make sure, I had an idea of what was going on. Did Josh throw it back in on Colton? Was there a big gap that he was creating? What's going on behind me so I know if I have breathing space or not? And now we're pretty much already caught up. I like to look back off that corner too in this race because I was running quite a low gear in this race. So I know that my exit speed off that hairpin is not going to be really great. That's kind of my weak spot. So if I look back there and I notice that the gap isn't changing or I'm pulling away, I know that I'm pulling away the rest of the track because I know I'm geared lower than most people. And we've got a monster run through here. The draft is pretty powerful here through this section. And we were able to go to the inside here on Dusty Davis. A little bit of a lock-up to throw it in there, but nothing too dramatic. And now we are coming up on the leaders here. You've got Wallace in the 78 and Mickey Andrews in the 2. And something I'm going to talk about in other videos too is I've raced with guys like McAndrews and Josh and Colton for a lot of years, so I kind of understand their driving style, how they're going to race. So I'm thinking about that when I'm coming up on Mike here. I know kind of how Mike drives. I can kind of anticipate what he's going to do. So having that knowledge of your competitors is super important if you can get it. You don't always have the luxury of racing with guys every weekend, so it can be tough to get that, but when you have it, you want to use it to your full advantage. Now everybody's kind of staying in line here. So Mike is pushing the leader here, so for me it's going to be really difficult to just draft by him because he's got a guy right in front of him that he's able to push and draft with. So if I'm going to make a pass on him, it's probably going to have to be maybe in the infield. We'll have to see. Of course, I know where it happens. Look over my shoulder there. Trying to be as smooth as possible to that last corner. So now Mike's reaching for the carburetor here. And that is, a sign of maybe some straightaway deficiencies for him. So I took full advantage of that and just kind of went for a little bit of a later pass into turn 1, but I was just assuming that he was maybe, he's got one hand on the wheel, he's distracted a little bit, maybe the engine's not performing at peak power, so I have an opportunity there. So next up here with the 78 with Wallace, I don't know how he drives, I've never raced against him before, so this lap here, I'm just kind of getting a feel of what his line is like. I'm trying to figure out where I'm stronger, where he's weaker. It looks like he's better in the infield a little bit. He's gapped me off that hairpin and through the double rights. Look over my shoulder with a great view of Mike McAndrew's front bumper. So that's a good indicator for me. That's information that's valuable because now I looked back and I know that Mike is not going away. Mike is probably the same speed as me. So I'm going to want to get through this next pass here with as little drama as possible. We've got another good run down the straightaway. Like I said, we're geared pretty low, so we're able to get really good runs down this hill. And another pretty drama-free pass for the lead. So now we've gone from 8th in the first corner to the lead, and we are 7 minutes into the video. So we're being pretty efficient. The go-kart's working pretty well. And now it's going to be a matter of seeing if we can hold this. So on some occasions, you're going to want to hold back, push a guy, that sort of thing, work together with some guy, wait till the last lap to make your pass. In a class like this, like KA. In X30, it's a little bit less of that. It's more aggressive, attack, go, go, go all the time. But the draft is pretty important here. But I was getting such good runs down the straightaway, and I was holding my own in the infield that I thought I could gap these guys behind me, so I didn't need to work with anybody. I was pretty sure I could lead this race and at least maintain the gap. Again, just trying to be as smooth as possible here. Like I said, this is a really flowing track. Really rewards conserving your momentum, really rewards good rhythm and kind of keeping ahead of the track and of the corners. So you're always thinking a couple steps ahead. Trying to get close to that curb on the inside, but not too close. There's a look behind, and you can see there's a gap now to McAndrews. So that's good for me. That means I've pulled a little bit of a gap, maybe a little bit of chaos happened behind me. And so what I'm going to be looking for is, obviously I'm going to be trying to drive every lap here as quickly and as smoothly as possible. But next time when I come around and I look over my shoulder onto the straightaway, I'm going to see if that gap has changed. Obviously, you can see the go-kart's working super well. I mean, there's almost no movement on the steering wheel. I can take partial credit for that for being smooth, but the go-kart also obviously is working very well. Another look over my shoulder, and now we can see the gap is pretty much even. And Mike is still behind me. So that means those guys using that information that quick half a second of visual information tells me that they're lined up, so they're pushing each other. So this is as fast as they're going to go. It tells me that I'm totally fine out there in front by myself. I'm not in any real danger yet of being swallowed up by a draft. And then I can look at my micron here and use that data for my lap time to say, okay, that was my fastest lap or whatever, and the gap stayed the same. So if I just keep running those laps, I should be fine. Let's see what happens this lap. Another look, you can't quite see, but the gap was pretty much the same. So we've done 3 laps now where the gap is pretty much even. The guys behind me aren't really gaining, and I know they're lined up pushing each other. And every lap on my micron is showing up like my fastest lap, or close to it. It's pretty consistent. So that's good and bad. That's good because it says, okay, we have the pace here to hold this position and hold this gap. But it also means I'm going to have to drive pretty much flat out for the rest of this race. It's not going to be a cruise. It's going to be flat out as fast as I can go for the next however many laps. So at this point, it's all about consistency and just hitting your marks over and over and over again. Another look where you can't really see. So there's 7 minutes left in this video. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because from this point on, there's really not a ton of overtaking or any action. It's just kind of me riding around out front, which is great for me, but not a ton to learn from. So we'll skip ahead a few minutes here. And you can see on the micron there, it's kind of hard to read. You might not be able to read it with the resolution of this video, but the lap times are all kind of 50.9, 51.0, 51.1, all in that range. So I'm just trying to be as consistent as possible every single lap. And then this next lap, we'll take a look and see what the gap is. A little quick look there, but kind of hard to see on this camera angle. Alright, so let's go through a little bit of a lap here at GoPro and see. So you approach turn 1 here at GoPro. It's pretty fast. The way I approach it is it's a real short lift off the throttle and a slight jab of the brakes and then right back to throttle. The brakes is just to get the go-kart set a little bit. You kind of tend to almost drift this corner a little bit. You kind of pitch it in there. You want minimal counter steer. Because this is all good. This leads onto the straightaway, so you always want to optimize the straightaways. So getting through turn 1 cleanly is pretty important for your back straightaway speed here. Any mistake there is going to cost you all the way to the Monza. You can use all this curb here, kind of just center the go-kart over the concrete here, and then some. Trying to make it as straight as possible. And then through this right-hander here, it's sort of just, I try to coach a lot in these faster corners that you want to drive with your shoulders. So instead of using your actual biceps and forearms to turn the kart, it's more of a lean. So you're just kind of leaning using your outside arm. You always want to use your outside arm to push on the wheel rather than pull on the wheel. Pushing on the wheel is going to put your body weight back in the seat, and it's going to give you more weight distribution over the seat struts, and it's going to help the go-kart work better and plant the outside rear tire better when you do that. And it's also going to give you a stronger base. Your body is a big, floppy, soft weight in the middle of the go-kart, so any movement you make is going to have an effect on the go-kart. So when you brace yourself a little bit harder into the seat like that, you're creating a firmer base, less variability within the go-kart's handling for that corner. So in a fast corner like that, you're just kind of leaning your shoulder into the seat to try to get it to turn with as little steering wheel input as possible. And you want to have as little load in your biceps as possible. Because anytime you hit a bump with the go-kart fully loaded up like that, and you're driving with your biceps, if you hit a bump, you're likely to go like this with the wheel, and you're going to upset the go-kart and scrub speed. So I'm always trying to drive with my shoulders through this fast stuff like that. The Monza here is a pretty hard braking zone, but it's a short braking zone. So it's a hard stab of the brakes, little tiny bit of tire chirping, and then back to throttle and full throttle, hugging that inside curb all the way through that corner. Let's scroll back here a little bit so we can take a look at the S's. S's, again, driving with your shoulders, really leaning the kart in right there, trying to make this as straight as possible. Get right next to the curb on the outside so that you can set up again for that left-hander. Use all the runoff possible here. It seems like every other race we go to at GoPro, they've got a different set of barriers or curbing on the exit here to try to keep us from running way out on the concrete. But if it's there, use it all. It's pretty smooth. Braking zone for this corner. This is your hard braking zone on the track. This is the hairpin. I kind of use my reference point as this access road right here. So my braking point is right about here. So where the curb here ends on the outside for that access road, start getting real hard on the brakes, slight chirp of the tires just to get it full braking power. And then get the kart slowed down. Nice easy turn in. You want to load the go-kart nice and slow through here. It's the tightest corner on the track, so you're really loading up a lot of mechanical grip into the go-kart. So a big movement here is going to really upset the kart and bog you down on the exit. The corner widens a little bit. It's like a decreasing radius. It opens. So you can afford to apex this corner a little bit early because you've got plenty of track on the outside here on the exit to swing out. So you can gain a tiny bit of time by apexing the beginning of that corner early, and then using all that runoff on the exit there by the concrete. And then again, coming back to the outside here, and really setting up to make this one smooth arc in the double rights. Again, leaning with your shoulders on the seat to load the go-kart, making a nice firm base to get the go-kart through this high load corner. Use a little bit of curb there. This last corner is kind of tricky because you're coming in at a little bit of an angle. And you've got a high curb on the outside here, and the apex is a high curb too. So the way I approach this is I start the braking process, and I brake hard initially, and I kind of get the rears a little bit light, and I kind of slide it up into this outside curb like I'm using it as a cushion, kind of like I'm driving on a dirt track in a sprint car, and just tucking that left rear tire up against that cushion to kind of keep me back on the track. And then it's a quick turn in because it's a fast right, and then it's immediately straight, and we're aiming kind of for right at that point there. We don't want to hit this curb though. Hitting this curb is not a good day. It's going to hurt. So you don't want to hit this curb. It's really high, and it leads onto a straightaway. So you don't want to ruin your straightaway. And then exit using most of the road there. And now you look back there as we're closing in on the white flag here. Look back. The gap is huge. Well, relatively. I pulled away a little bit here at the end. That was white flag. So at this point, it's all about just bringing it home. No crazy mistakes. Maybe I'm dialing it back to 95% instead of running 100%. Just trying to not drive off the road or drop a wheel or anything silly. And there we go. Pretty smooth all the way through. Just hit my marks over and over. And that's the win. Yeah, so it was kind of a good race to watch to give you a perspective of kind of how to control the race a little bit. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what's going through somebody's mind in a situation like this, and a little bit of a higher level event like this. We're able to see some cool, nice, smooth, clean passes in there. That was good. And you got a little bit of a tour around a fast lap of GoPro Motorplex. So hopefully that was helpful to you in some way. I'm going to be going back and going through all my old footage like this and creating more of these videos to kind of break down things that I'm seeing in my own driving. It helps me too, so hopefully it helps you. Thanks for watching.